Greetings everyone. Today we're going to explore solving systems by substitution. Now specifically in this video, one variable is already going to be isolated. So make sure you're on the correct piece of your notes, or if you are new to me, make sure you are seeking out the correct video, as I do have many substitution videos. Now, just a quick review of what substitution is. Substitution is a process we use to solve systems of equations. Now, the first step we get to avoid today in this video. Typically, you have to isolate a variable, and I'm going to give that to you. So let's jump to step 2. Step 2 is you need to replace the variable in the other equation and solve. We're going to use our solving steps from the beginning of the year. Step 3 is once you know one variable, you need to find the other variable. Alrighty, let's jump straight into the examples. Now in these examples, your numbering might be different, so make sure that you are looking at the correct problem. Alright, on this first problem, our first goal is to acknowledge which letter is by itself. What I mean by that is this y here is by itself on one side of the equation. So what we care about is the expression on the other side. And so I'm going to ask you to box the expression on the other side. I promise that this boxing strategy will help. Our goal is we're going to substitute that expression into the other equation for y. So watch this. I'm going to rewrite the other equation. But where there's a y, I'm going to put a parenthesis. And where there's a parenthesis, I'm going to fill in the expression for y. You see what I did there? I replaced it. Alrighty, that's the hard step. That's the new step in this lesson. From here on, we're just solving. So let's take a look. Technically, there's a -1 out front. We're going to distribute a -1. That's going to get us a negative and a negative. Everything else falls down. Next step is combining. Now I'm going to go through these steps a little quicker because these are our solving steps from last semester. So make sure to see that video if you need help. Next step, undo any addition or subtraction. And our last step, undo any multiplication or division. That last step's getting real easy nowadays. All right, now as you know from our other system lessons, I need a point. X is -1, which means I still need to find y. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick an equation, and you know what? I'm going to pick the first one. If I rewrite the first equation, look at this, you guys. I'm going to erase and make my x value -1. That's all I have to do is the mental calculations. 2 times -1 is -2. -2 plus 2 is 0. Y is 0. You just got to plug that in. We did do a previous lesson with plugging in numbers, so that'll be more familiar to you. All right, example 8. Which letter is by itself? All right, that y is by itself, so I'm going to box the expression, and that needs to go in for y in the other equation. So I'm going to rewrite the other equation, but where there's a y, I'm going to put a gap. Okay, where there's a gap or a parenthesis, I'm going to write x plus 3. See how I replace the y, replace the y? All right, that's the new stuff. Now let's solve. Distribute the 2's. If we didn't use it, it falls down. Combine like terms. Undo any addition or subtraction. And undo any multiplication or division. So my x value is 0. Now I need to find my y value. So you know what? Watch this. I'm just going to take this 0 and plug it in for x. What's 0 plus 3? 3. It should be some easier sort of mental calculations. And if you need to show it, sometimes you will. We'll get into that. You can just fill it in and then solve. All right, let's take a look at example 9. Which letter is by itself? Which variable is isolated? Which variable is in quarantine? The y. And so I'm going to use the y's expression to replace the y. In the other equation, you can't plug it back into itself. That wouldn't make sense. And so we're going to rewrite the other equation. And where there's a y, I'm filling in a negative 2x plus 4. You guys, that's the new step. If you get stuck, that's where you need to ask the questions. Let's solve. Distribute a negative 3. We've got a positive 6. Watch your signs. And a negative 12. Do you see how that negative played out? Let's combine like terms. We get a 12x. Undo any addition or subtraction. And we're going to divide. And 0 divided by anything, as we already know, is 0. All right, I'm going to show just a little bit of work here for finding, or for plugging in 0. Y equals negative 2 times 0 plus 4. So this is 0, and 0 plus 4, that's 4. All right, example 10 on my slides. Just make sure you're matching on yours. Find the letter that's by itself. X is by itself. This time X is in quarantine. So I'm going to box X's expression, and I have to replace the X value. So if you're a color person, if those colors are helping, maybe you want to get a highlighter, okay? All right, let's rewrite the second equation. But where there's an X, I left a gap. I'm going to leave a parenthesis. And in that parenthesis, I'm going to write the 2y minus 3. So this one's in a different order, but that doesn't matter. Okay? We're going to distribute first. We're still solving. I'm going to have a 6y minus 9. There's nothing to combine on this one, but I do have, remember there's a step called move variable. So instead of positive 4y, we're going to minus 4y. Or you could move the 6y by subtracting it, right? It doesn't matter which one you pick. Opposites go away. We've got a 2y left over. Everything else falls down. Instead of minus 9, let's add 9. And undo any multiplication or division. We get a y value of 5. All right, I'm just going to show a little calculation work, or maybe just go like this. What's 2 times 5? 10. What's 10 minus 3? 7. Right? Or maybe you could just show the equation if you need to. Maybe that's helpful to just see that so you know what to plug into your calculator. All right, next one, which variables by itself? Again, the X is the loner. It's the one in isolation. So we're going to replace the X with my expression. So let's rewrite the other equation. But instead of X, I'm writing Y plus 4. See how every single time I do that step, I know I'm right because there's only Y's left over. Let's distribute the 1. Let's combine like terms. Undo addition or subtraction. I'm going a little fast here. Pause if you need. And divide by 2. Y is 2. Y is 2. I need to find X. Oh, this one's easy, guys. Look at this. What's 2 plus 4? 6. See how I did that? I just went and changed the Y to 2. All right, this is our last one, and it's unique. Because if I tell you which variable is by itself, wait, X and X, they're both by themselves, you guys. See how, let me highlight. This would be the expression for X on the top line, and this would be the expression for X on the bottom line. So here's the thing, you get to choose. So just to change it up, I'm going to pick the second one, okay? And I'm going to replace X with the expression. So be careful here. I'm going to rewrite the first equation. Look at this. See how I wrote this? But instead of x, I'm going to replace with a 10 plus 2y. You see how I did that? I replaced the x in the first equation. Okay? So a little bit tougher when it's not in the same order, but I know you can do it. Let's solve. So technically there's a 1 in front, or some of you might be like, hey, I just don't need the parentheses on this problem. Either way is fine. Next, we need to move a variable. Move a variable. I'm going to move this because instead of minus 1y, I think it's easier to add 1y. When I add 1y, I've got 3 y's. Undo any addition or subtraction, so I'm going to minus the 10. And then we're going to divide by 3's. There we go. We got y is negative 1. Now, what's nice about this is when I say, hey, which equation's easier to plug into, you kind of get to pick, right? I'm going to show you both. You pick one. I'm going to show both. Let's say you replace this y with negative 1. What's a double negative? Positive. We get 8. But let's say your partner, or you like this equation better. Instead of y, we're going to make it negative 1. That would get me negative 2, which still gets me 8. See how it doesn't matter? It doesn't matter which equation you plug into. It still works out. Alrighty, that makes it through this video. Again, I have many substitution videos. If you need more, make sure to check that out on my YouTube playlists. Make sure if you have any questions to let me know. Check out Google Classroom to see what the task is. And just keep in touch. And until next time, have a good one.